Okay, gentlemen, I see there's a smaller group today. I guess it must be the weather, right?
Hardcore.
The tough guys. The resistance. Anyways, we're about to get started. So today, the title of this article, did you send it? Why is it showing? You got to push the
I put my name on it. I thought other people could add their name.
Does anybody want to put their name on it for the?
I did.
Or anybody else for the?
I'll put it on.
Go ahead, put it on. Put it on.
And then send it.
Go ahead, put it on.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to be taking up issues pertaining to Purim, the Megillah, what they call in Yana Diyoma. Everybody knows that there's a Tainus. Tomorrow we observe the Tainus. Those who want to, I don't know what your minute. I get up early before the Tainus. I always have a big breakfast.
I'm very old. I don't know if it's a good idea.
Okay. I'm kind of old too, in a youngish kind of way, in a youngish sort of way.
Yeah, I'm a young old, but I'm old.
So, interesting then, you know, in America we always read the Megillah after Tainus Esther. Here not.
Well, we're doing it at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning.
What, the Megillah? What are you talking about? Tomorrow's the fast?
Thursday.
No, Friday is the Megillah.
But it's in the
Shushan
morning.
Purim. In the evening. What are you talking about? The Megillah will be read
Thursday evening, right.
Thursday evening, midnight, and Friday morning. Friday is a busy day and you have to have your Suda. Yeah, you should have it early. It shouldn't interfere with Shabbos and the preparations for Shabbos. So it's a little bit complicated, a little bit challenging when it comes out on Friday. But we'll do it. Anyways,
so I
again. Yeah, I thought you wanted to ask me a question.
Well, it'll come out in what I'm saying.
Okay, this gentleman has a guest.
Nobody calls me a gentleman.
Okay.
So for many, many years, I came to Reform, and they had a Megillah, but it was all garbage about Purim. There's no spirituality contained in it at all. But what I'm starting to learn, and tell me what you think about this, is that Purim is the most spiritual of all holidays. The most. And it will follow us into the world to come.
Well, it'll never be canceled, the Rambam says. It will never be canceled.
Right.
Go ahead.
So, and in Purim, it keeps on dealing with opposites, uniting opposites and paradox in ways that I never understood before. So the theme of my Devar Torah will be is that Purim represents a re-giving of the Torah of mankind to mankind.
What do you mean by mankind to mankind? The Torah was
Human
given
beings.
by Hashem.
Human beings.
Yeah.
The first giving of the Torah comes to us from Hashem. So it's the acquisition of spiritual knowledge, and through the Torah, it's redistribution of spiritual knowledge. But Purim is a re-giving of the Torah by humanity to humanity. And that's what Esther and Mordecai represent, because without them, there will be no re-giving of the Torah.
Well, does anybody have a question here? I mean, actually there is a statement in the Gemara to that effect, not exactly the way you're saying it. Let me just give you what the Gemara says about the same subject. Because the Gemara says in Shabbos, actually I have whatever, I don't have to look at it. The Gemara says that the Jews, when the Jews came on, it says by Yisyatzeh, B'sachtis Ahar, that the Jews stood at the bottom of the mountain, by Sinai. And then God said to them, if you'll accept the Torah, it's good. Right. If not, this will be, he held the mountain over them like some kind of a dome. If not, this will be your burial place. Okay. Which is a very, very tough Gemara. Because if you read the Chumash, I mean, we extol the Jews were the only people that said Na'aseh v'nishma. Supposedly the Jews accepted the Torah happily and willingly, whereas all the other nations all the other nations rejected the Torah. Okay, when the Jews didn't reject the Torah, they accepted the Torah. Now the rabbis are coming along and telling you, oh, it sounds like a different version. It sounds like they're saying that no, they had to be coerced. So if they had to be coerced, so why are the Jews any special? Why are they better than anybody else? And if God's intention is to coerce, so why didn't God coerce the other nations? God offered it to the other nations. They didn't want it. So why didn't God pick up the mountain and say, if you accept it, it's good. If not, this will be your burial. No, he didn't do that. He only did that by the Jews. So the question is, what does that mean? Anyways, the Gemara continues. The Gemara continues and says, Afal Pikein. Nevertheless, when it came to Purim, they accepted it. They re-accepted it. This may be something you're talking about. They re-accepted the Torah. Kimu v'kiblu, right. Kimu masha kiblu kvar. They affirmed that which they had previously accepted. So it's interesting. The Gemara is saying that it went through stages. It went through a development. Originally saying they did not accept it. They accepted it out of fear. They accepted it out of fear. And in the time of Purim, because of what happened in Purim, they accepted it out of love. So Rashi says, love, what's the love? The love of the miracles that took place in Purim. The love of the miracles. So all this is difficult, problems, because if you're going to give it to our Torah on this, well, what do you mean? The miracles that took place by Sinai and before Sinai were much, much greater. Much greater, would seem. We're much greater.
The miracles don't change anything.
Than the miracles. Okay. But they did change, because they accepted it out of love. It caused them to accept. The miracles had an effect. You can't say the miracles had no effect. They did have an effect because they caused the Jews to at least accept the Torah. But now we're being told that how do you square that with the fact that the Torah says that the Jews, Moshe came to the Jews and they said, Kol asher dibra Hashem nasa. Whatever God said, we're going to do. If you read the story in the Chumash, you don't have any sense of any kind of mountain. Okay, now, I don't want to shock anybody over here. Okay, I'm not a heretic. I'm a total believer. I'm in Torah 100%. Torah Shabbal Peh. But I don't think that the rabbis mean it literally. That if you were there, I don't think they mean that. They're conveying an idea. These are midrashim, and our great teachers like the Rambam, and not just the Rambam, the Ramban and others all agree that there are many midrashim that are not to be taken literally. You know, there's a literal meaning, then there's a hidden meaning, and then there's an even more hidden meaning. There's different layers of meaning. Okay, so when the rabbis constructed a midrash, they wanted to communicate ideas. They weren't giving history. Oh, you didn't know that? I mean, Sinai, if that actually occurred, literally occurred, it would be recorded in the Chumash. Why wouldn't it be recorded? The Chumash is recording the actual what happened. Midrashim are trying to elucidate things on a deeper level. Okay? So then what does that midrash mean? If I'm saying, and as I said, I'm a complete believer, if I'm saying that they didn't mean to say that there was an actual case where God lifted up the mountain, of course God could have done that, but I'm just saying that's not what they meant, and held it over them, what are they saying? How do you square that? How do you square that with what the Torah's account seems very clear that the Jews accepted it. Whatever God says we're going to do. Why wouldn't they accept it? Of course they accepted it. Now we're being told a completely different, see, opposites. You're reading one thing in the Chumash, you go to the Gemara, and you're getting a totally different understanding. What you got to do is work on it, and you have to try to blend the two.
And another account that we have is the account of Israel on the return from Babylon, and Israel persuaded Ezra that they needed and they wanted to hear the Torah read. And so they set up the platforms in all of Israel, surrounded this platform that Ezra erected, so that they could hear the Torah read in their hearing.
Right.
Just after they completed the second temple.
Correct. Yeah, correct. So I'm sorry, this gentleman over there, he's a gentleman.
To understand that point with the mountain, I understand it like that. The Machshava of Hashem in the beginning of the beginning was the concept of Israel to bring that to the world. So that's the foundation. On that is built up the blueprint, the Torah. So when we wouldn't accept the Torah, it doesn't go on.
That's could mean the world doesn't go on.
The world doesn't go on.
Yeah, that's what does it say? Lu brisi yomam v'layla. God says, if it's not for my covenant, day and night, then nothing would exist.
Yeah,
In other words, that's for sure. The Jews' acceptance of the Torah, the whole existence of mankind is contingent upon that, because that's what God created the world for.
That's why the Torah is connected with the concept of Israel. We are Israel. That's why he didn't put a mountain about the Goy. They are not connected with the concept of Israel.
That's very good.
Foundation.
No, that's 100%. But how do you explain what it means? What are they trying to tell us when they say he put the mountain over them? If that's not meant literally, what does it mean?
Okay, please.
Okay, no. You have the floor. If you want to answer that.
No.
Okay, good. Yaakov Meir.
There is a law if a man takes a woman by force.
To marry her.
Not to marry.
Oh.
Physically.
I mean, rape, you're saying.
Rape.
Yeah.
And then they marry, because they have to marry, he cannot divorce her.
Unless she wants to. If she doesn't want to marry.
If she doesn't want,
Okay.
he cannot divorce her.
Right. Lo Elisha.
Because he took her by force. This is the meaning of Betachtit Achar. God took us by force, which means he cannot divorce from us.
Okay, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
That's a nice pshat. That's a nice, interesting kind of a pshat. Okay, a nice vart. They call it a nice vartel. Very, very nice. Good point. Go ahead.
So if we don't necessarily accept the idea of Hashem threatening us.
No, I'm not saying we don't.
No, I'm
saying not literal mountain. I'm not saying it doesn't contain a threat.
Okay.
That's what Chazal are trying to tell us.
So the Jews, yes, we experienced the miracles, but we accepted something completely unknown.
That's right. That's good. That's very good.
So some of us would say that is not a rational act. The Torah was accepted on irrationality that transcends rationality. And that's from the divine perspective. Then we have Esther and Mordechai, in effect, re-accepting the Torah for us, when they could have assimilated and life would have been whatever it would have been. It would have been a simpler thing to do that.
Oh, let's ask.
So they accept it, they do that also on the basis of irrationality, but this time it's humankind to humankind.
What does that mean? I don't understand.
Giving and receiving the Torah.
Who's giving to who?
Their act made it possible for the Torah to be received.
Well, I mean, I'm not 100% clear on that. Let me state.
Well, how can I explain it better?
I don't know.
What is it you don't understand?
I didn't understand what you.
There was
two
no
questions.
intervention of God.
Good.
So it was an intervention of people.
So it was human to human,
Well, yeah.
re-giving and re-receiving the Torah.
Hold on a second. First of all, you'd have to explain what it is about Purim that caused this transformation to accepting it out of love, more so than Sinai. Why is that? Why is the miracle of Purim more significant in terms of leading to
Because
love?
Hashem's name is not mentioned in the Megillah.
But why would that cause love is what I'm asking. Why would that factor cause you to love Judaism? I'm asking.
There was another basis for receiving the Torah. And what were they acting against? They were acting, it's so classic, on the hatred of the Jew by Haman. The hatred of the Jew. Amalekites, I can't explain exactly, but we want to say spaceless hatred, but it's not. The haters always find a rational reason to hate.
Okay.
And we irrationally keep on saying, we're here for the long haul, and we're going to help to bring the world to come that's going to make it better for everyone. So it's the irrationality of, on the one hand, receiving the Torah at Sinai, the irrationality of re-receiving it, and promoted by Esther and Mordechai to combat the rationality of hatred against the Jew. Every group has a rational reason for hating the Jew.
No, I say the hatred of the Jew is totally irrational.
No, it's totally irrational.
Yeah, well, I guess we're using the word in a different sense. Okay, we're using the word. That's the problem that we have.
Okay, every government
what I mean by
felt
rational
threatened by the Jew
is not the
that
same.
they were going to be overthrown, or that the Jew was the
that's irrational.
harbinger of horrible economic systems.
But that's irrational. That wasn't true. like Paro. Paro's fear was...
Rationality is what you believe. It doesn't have to be true.
No. I'm using rationality. There's an objective rationality, reason. Something makes sense. It's rational to do it because it makes sense. People don't hate the Jews because it makes sense. To the contrary, if they saw all the qualities, Paro was psychotic. Oh, well, they're going to increase. They're increasing now. They're going to join. I mean, Hitler. Oh, they're going to knife in the back. Meanwhile, the Jews were the most loyal citizens. So to me, they acted irrationally. That's what. Look, we have to accept the same kind of terms that we use.
We do.
Okay. No, I'm saying that you're saying that Hitler was rational. I'm saying that he wasn't.
What I'm saying is that hatred against the Jew is based on people have reasons for doing
They
it.
have reasons. That doesn't make it rational.
Can I
Everybody, every nut has reasons for what he's doing. Does that make it rational?
What I'm saying is accepting the Torah is an irrational act.
I disagree.
It transcends rationality.
I
And that's where you're wrong.
I'll explain to you my position. It's okay. Well, I respect you. Don't worry. I will try to explain. What did you say? Sorry. Go ahead. Yaakov, I'm going to give you the then I want to talk a little bit. I'm listening to everybody say, see how patient I am?
We'll put together what he says and what you said.
I didn't say anything yet.
No, about this issue, about the rationality.
Okay.
Rationality. When Yaakov and Esav meet again, they give to each other a kiss. And there is a commenter by Rashi.
He bit him.
He says, הלכה ידוע שעשו שונא את יעקב. It's an halacha, well known, that Esav hates Yaakov. What does it mean, halacha?
It's part of the, it's a law.
It cannot be halacha. Halacha in itself is something that goes beyond rationality. It's something that is given by God, and that's it. There is no rationality. So,
Excuse me, stop right there. That's what I'm saying. That there's no rationality to this.
so the meaning of this is people are trying to find in history a reason for hate to Jews. But the truth is, this is something that goes beyond rationality. It's something mystical. People give a rationale.
That is rationalization. They rationalize it, but that doesn't make it rational. Rationalization is when you come up.
In each century, the world a different reason to hate Jews.
Because
It's a rationalization.
Rationalization.
they make up a threat that the Jew presents to them.
Yeah, but
Whether
it's
the
not the
threat is
real
true
reason. That he's
doesn't
saying
matter.
is that that's not the real reason. The reason they're giving is not the real reason. The real reason is because they have jealousy or because they want to be the chosen people and hatred.
It's mystical. The real reason is God decided like this.
Fine. But the reason they're giving is not the true reason. Then to justify every person, no matter how insane he is, wants to be able to put a good face on his Mishigasan. He wants to make them sensible. That's rationalization. That's rationalization. But just because he's rationalizing doesn't mean it's rational. Now, let me address the same terrain. I haven't given my explanations. I want to give my explanations, and then you could attack my positions. You could ask questions. Okay? Take notes. Shalom.
No, guns.
Anyway, I say it like this. See, what Chazal mean is not that there was literally a mountain. And they're not denying that when Moshe came to the Jews, offering to give them the Torah, they were, whatever God says, we're going to do. But why? What motivated them? They want to say, at that point in time, they could not accept it out of love. The reason is because they did, like you said, the reason is because they haven't seen it in action. They haven't seen the Torah. They don't know if it's something good, if it's not good. They don't know what it is. So why did they accept it? One time I said, there's only one reason why they accepted it, and I'm going to say that they accepted it for rational reasons. If the creator of the universe tells you that this is the way I created you, and I'm telling you this is what you were created for, and if you do this, it'll be good for you, of course I'm going, even though I don't understand why.
You know Levinas.
I don't know why.
It's a French philosopher.
Excuse me, let me finish. I may not know, see, that's what I'm trying to say. Even if I don't know why, even if I don't understand it, it still could be rational for me to do it.
Like that bit.
Because you need a doctor. You got an illness, not you personally, okay? You go, they tell you, this is clear, this is the best guy. He's the biggest genius in this field. He tells you to do certain things. You don't understand how they're going to help you. You don't understand why this is going to be good for you, why that. In fact, it may look crazy to you, but it's rational to listen to him because he's the biggest authority and you don't know anything, so it's rational.
It's based on rationality.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. Listen.
So we're accepting his rationality because we think
And that's the rational thing. That is the rational thing to do. In any kind of a situation where you need guidance and so on and so forth. You go to the one who knows the most, knows more than me.
We agree.
Okay, but but I call that rational. It would have been irrational for the Jews to say, no, thank you, God. The other nations were irrational. They didn't realize, they didn't understand this thought. If God's telling you to keep the Torah, it's got to be in your best interests. Even I don't understand how shortness is going to make a difference in my life. I don't understand. I mean, I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying the average person would say that. I don't know. But if God's telling you to do it, he knows, right? And he doesn't want to harm you. He wants to benefit you. So therefore, it makes sense. So I'm trying to convey, it makes sense for me to do what God says, even if I don't understand how that's going to help me. It's rational for me to follow him. That's what I'm trying to communicate.
It's trans-rational.
And why do you have to play around with words?
Because it's mystical, that's why.
It's not mystical.
Mysticism is not
No,
rational.
it's not mystical.
It supersedes rationality, and it's good.
Okay, fine, so fine. We don't have to argue. You agree. You just want to use the word mystical. Okay. Now, the thing is like this. So essentially what I'm saying is that the Jews at Sinai were on the level to recognize that this is the right thing for them to do, but they weren't on the level where they could relate to it with Ava. You say, in other words, Meira, because of fear. Right? I mean, what can I do? Well, God tells me to do it. What choice do I have? God says that you have to do this. So I have to do it. I don't love it because why? Because I don't see an action. I don't see any benefit. I don't see any enjoyment. I have to learn Torah. So I learn Torah. Eventually, when you get to a certain level, you'll enjoy Torah. And you'll see, oh my goodness, this is wonderful. I love it. But when you first start out, you can't love it. When you first start out, you can't love it because you're not familiar with it. You haven't experienced it yet. And the same thing with the whole Torah way of life. When you first keep the Torah way of life. Now, it depends where you're coming from. Some people are coming from, from a whole lost type of an experience. So maybe at first they like it because there's family and so on and so forth. But I'm talking about the mitzvos. Okay? I'm talking, the essence of Torah is not the family and all that good stuff. That's fine. But everybody has that. That's not the essence. The essence is Torah. The essence is the mitzvos. The essence is the ideas. The essence is learning. Now, that's a whole different way of life. A person who never experienced that way of life, he can't really, he's not going to be attracted to it necessarily. Therefore, the mountain. So God, because he cares, quote unquote. If God didn't care about you, he wouldn't have taken the mountain and put it over your head. He'd let you go according to your own whims, and which would have led you totally astray. But he doesn't want that. So he imposed the Jews, the miracles. The miracles were overwhelming. You see, God appears in Sinai. It's God. It's the overwhelming miracles. The miracle is so overwhelming that it can't be love. It has to be fear. That's what the rabbi, so it's as though God picked up the mountain and held it up. It's as though he gave a threat. I'm not saying he gave an actual threat, but the reality, the existential reality that the Jews confronted was that phenomenon. They can't say, I love to do, how can I say I love to do it? Well, that changed, but Purim was totally different. Bear in mind, Purim takes place many, many years after Sinai. But Purim is totally different. What is it about the miracles of Purim? And like you mentioned, God's name is not in the Megillah directly, right? Well, in the allusion, on that night, the sleep of the king was disturbed. Who was the king? The Rabbi Chazal says it's Hashem. But in the Megillah itself, it's a reference to to Achashverosh. What is it? This is the question. What is it about the phenomenon of Purim that caused them to have a whole different attitude towards Torah, and to now re-accept it but out of love? Okay, what is that? That's my question to you people. Okay? You can think about it. You don't have to have an instant answer. Some people think they have to have an instant answer for everything, but you don't have to. No one requires that of you. You can think. You can think about it, Abyssal. Okay?
But Mordechai saw the evil of Haman.
Yes.
And Haman is let's say, descendant of a Melech, and he's arguing, and he's presenting to Ahasuerus that the Jews are increasing in numbers, they're a threat to your well-being as the king, therefore they need to be...
But I want you, when you give the answer, I want you to tie that. How do you connect that with the fact that the Jews accepted it out of love? That's the challenge. What you said is correct. You see, what would you say is the essential characteristic of the story that's contained in the Megillah? By the way, everybody should...
I will make a comparison. In 1967, we won the war.
The Six-Day War.
The Six-Day War, which was against nationality. Some Jews accepted God out of love because they understood.
And gratitude.
Yes. So you needed to fear for your life, for your existence, like a person, like a fork. And then to see that something happens that you cannot understand rational by ration.
Okay, by the way, I just hold the thing. Oh, by the way, what is the... I just thought of something. Sometimes flashes come, okay? What is the connection between the Six-Day War and Purim?
Oh,
What? There's a big connection between this. You can include in the Dvar Torah. I just thought of it as you're bringing it up.
Nasser. And
What is the connection? Yeah, true. See what the connection is. What does it
Minority
say?
victorious over the greater forces.
That's right. But Napo, the thing turned around from a
It's
situation of...
irrational.
1 second. Well, all right. 1 second. From a situation of utter despair. I remember. Everybody remembers when you lived through that experience of the Six-Day War. At that time, we didn't know about the Israeli... we didn't know about the Israeli Air Force. It appeared, to all intents and purposes, that who knows, was a big disaster. It's another Holocaust, God forbid. Nasser said, I'm going to throw the Jews into the sea, and they were surrounded on all sides, and the situation was getting worse and worse and
West
worse.
Point can't explain it to their soldiers.
Hold on a second. And then suddenly, from a calamity and a catastrophe in a very short period of time, almost instantaneously, the situation turned around completely.
Amen.
I remember that Monday, you woke up and the Israeli the Air Force carried out an unbelievable plan. They had information with regard to every Egyptian plane, which is a fake, which is real, this and that, and they organized that whole strike. In fact, Nasser accused the United States. There were so many planes coming at him constantly that he thought that the United States, the Sixth Fleet, had to have participated. But they, and then on every front, and then the next day they captured the old city, and Matagar, the Har Habayit Biyadenu. Unfortunately, Dayan decided to give it back. But they, miracles. So that was exactly what happened. They went from despair. The Jews were earmarked for absolute destruction. Taf and Nushim Biyad. That was the Holocaust of Holocaust. Children and women, b'yom echad, on one day, all the Jews would have been destroyed. There was no hope. And suddenly, Esther, because of her intervention with Ahasuerus, of course, with the help of the Hashgacha. You see, the miracles over here are different. You see what I'm trying, by the way, Yaakov, you see what I'm saying? Purim and the Six-Day War are basically, it's the same story. It's basically the same story. The only thing is like this. You have to ask, if you're a historian, you have to ask.
Except in the Six-Day War, Kissinger was Haman.
Kissinger wasn't the Secretary of State. Nixon was not the president. That was Lyndon Johnson. No, the advisor to Nixon was later. Get your history straight. In 1967, who was the president of the United States? LBJ. I don't remember the name of the Secretary of State. That would be a hard one. I'm not sure who the Secretary of State. One of his, but it wasn't Nixon. It wasn't Kissinger. Okay. So you want to blame him? You can blame Kissinger for the Yom Kippur War. What happens in the Yom Kippur War? Okay, fine. What's different is this. Did the Six-Day War have the effect of causing the Jews to re-accept the Torah out of love? That's the question.
I think
that's the question.
Fought out of love.
They should have. You didn't have that. I don't think so. Well, maybe it did have some effect. It's very hard to read these trends. But the rabbi should have been calling the people to do tshuva.
It's Dean Rusk.
Okay. Yeah. Dean Rusk. Okay.
And McNamara's
He was the defense.
Secretary of Defense.
But they were bogged down in Vietnam at the time. The United States was bogged down in Vietnam. But what you see from that, just quickly, what you see from that is that Abba Eban went to all the capitals to, implore them. The United States had treaties, had agreements with Israel that they would not allow the Straits of Tiran to be blocked. They were supposed to clear up the blockade. Well, no, not now. We can't. Any nation, you see what happened to Ukraine. Any nation that depends upon other people, other states, to fight their battles for them is doomed. It's not going to happen. It didn't happen before World War II. It's not happening now. The Ukrainians want to fight, but they don't have the equipment that they really could use. Go ahead.
But they're really putting up a good fight.
Okay, yeah, I give them a lot of credit. They should have. I'll get to you. What they should have done is armed them to the teeth with all kinds of weapons. They would have taught Putin a lesson. He's learning a lesson anyways, but it's not enough to stop him. Good, Yaakov, I'm sorry.
Soldiers are coming from all over the world.
But
to help Ukraine.
But you inspired a thought in me. I have to give you credit. I got that thought about the comparison with the Six-Day War. Go ahead, continue now. Let's hear something good.
You spoke of Ukraine, so Zelensky should act like Bar Kokhba or like the one who founded Yavne.
Oh, yeah, Rabbi Akiva.
No.
Oh, no, not Rabbi Akiva. I'm sorry. Yavne, and give me Yavne, and it's Chachamim. Oh, I can't think. Who is the rabbi?
Yochanan ben Zakkai.
Yochanan ben Zakkai, correct.
So one said, let's serve the people. And the other said, let's fight.
That's right.
What should he do?
What should Zelensky do?
Yeah, what should he do? Like Bar Kokhba?
He really has no choice. He doesn't want to surrender the country. He doesn't want to surrender the country.
What is the price he can pay?
The price?
In lives.
I can't answer that question. They're behind him, though. As long as the people are behind him and they want to fight. All they're asking for, it's very, very interesting. All they're asking for from the West is not that they should fight their battle, but they want the weapons, the planes, the missiles. They could wreak havoc. They could do a tremendous amount of damage to the Russians. I don't understand the whole Indian with the no-fly zone. There should be but they've been abandoned. They're basically abandoned by the West.
Yeah.
Just like Poland was abandoned before World War II. So nobody ever learns the lesson of history. The only one that
Israel was abandoned in 82.
Israel learned what?
Israel was abandoned from America also.
Yeah.
In what year?
82. Kippur, the Kippur War.
Oh, the Yom Kippur 73.
They wouldn't let arms coming here.
Well, eventually,
No country in Europe would.
They delayed it for 10 days.
Nixon resupplied them.
But he delayed it for 10 days.
That was Kissinger, I think.
That's
Whatever.
right.
Yeah. They withheld. The only country, though, that did learn the lessons, even though we have is Israel. Because Israel decided that we have to defend ourselves. That's what Moshe Dayan said when he said that we're not asking American boys to do the kind of things that Israeli boys should be doing. We're not asking them to fight for us, but we need the weapons. It's a small country. They can't produce that kind of weaponry. Not at that period in time. Okay? So this is a very interesting point that you're making. I don't know what Zelensky should do. What would you do? Meanwhile, he's become a hero.
There are tens of thousands of soldiers converging on Ukraine from all around
That's
the world.
not. You think it's going to make the difference?
Big difference, yes.
You need weapons, my friend. They could be. You need the weapons. If the Russians.
The Russians are losing 10 to 1 soldiers to the Ukrainians.
But they have more. They can send in more and more, and they have the
But the
airplanes
Russians
and
are
the
losing
weapons.
support of Russians.
All right, we'll see where that goes.
Ukraine has
Big trouble.
44
So
million people.
maybe these guys should go to Russia and protest, and organize
They'll
protests.
take care of the protests.
I am skeptical. Let me just make a point. Look. I hope that Ukraine. This is a terrible kind of a thing. It's an aggression. I don't have that much. I don't have that much sympathy for the Ukrainians in general because of what they did to the Jews.
100,000.
They joined with the Nazis and they carried out the worst atrocities. So I don't feel such sympathy for them. But in this context, first of all, this is a different generation, and in this context, the fact that what Russia is doing constitutes a tremendous threat to world peace, to world order. It can't be allowed. I mean, there's nobody stopping him. He can do whatever he wants to do. Where's the United States? Okay, you know that. You know the answer to that question. So,
we saw what the United States did in Syria.
I'm sorry?
We saw what the United States did in Syria, which is
But that
practically
bombing.
nothing.
That was one bombing.
That's it.
To Trump, you mean?
Yeah, but that was it.
Yeah, well, that's Syria. That's Syria. This is Russia. I don't know that the United States, first of all, you needed someone that could talk to him. This is someone that could have met with Putin and really worked this thing out. I think a guy like Trump could have done something like that. If not, I think he would have armed, you have to arm them to the, see, because Trump wouldn't back off and become a loser. He wouldn't do that. And that's the difference. He was a fighter, and he's not going to back off. So that's what you need, but we don't have that right now. Again, I'm sorry, I wanted to hear your point.
Ukraine is not our friend.
It's not what?
It's not our friend. They.
Oh, Israel's
United
friend.
Nations,
That's
right.
correct. You have to make a good
United
point.
Nations, and there were 17 things voted against Israel. 13 they voted against Israel, and the other 4 they abstained.
They've never supported Israel. The
I know,
Ukrainian
that's
government.
another, that's
You
true.
know,
I understand, it's
they,
not,
they let 27 biolabs be built along the Russian border.
biolabs?
Biological, they were doing biological work.
Like Wuhan.
For what purpose?
Like Wuhan.
Exactly.
For
What
biological work.
That's what the
Against
the
who? So why did they use it against Russia?
Why are you doing this? So listen to the Russian, it was interpreted. Why did you build 27 along our border?
Right.
What if we build 27 along your border in the United States? What are you going to do?
Is that the point? That's why he attacked them, Putin? Because of those,
It's part of the reasons why.
Wonderful.
Another part is because,
The NATO agreements that they signed on November 20th.
and he says we
but they didn't join NATO yet.
No,
But
they,
it's always been
they
a
signed a
and the
memo
United
of
States
intent.
admitted they had these biolabs. It's not even like they tried to hide.
I think the thing is very complicated. I think it's very complicated, and you're right. They're not tzaddikim. Who said? I'm not saying the Ukrainians are tzaddikim, okay? And then the Russians are
Mass
Rishayim.
media reports it as,
Well, that's the narrative. They adopt their certain narrative because they are the victims. In today's media, everything is the victims and the aggressors. Okay, so they're like the Palestinians have become the victims, and Israel is the aggressor. Yeah, all these narratives.
But there's a whole other part that's played in this. The corona was running out of fear. They were using corona for fear, and now corona is not there. So they shifted the fear and what's going on.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? For fear for how does that fit in what you're talking? I'm following you. I'm not following you. Go ahead.
Okay.
That the government should intervene in all facets of our life.
Is that what you're saying? Go ahead.
No. What I'm saying is the corona was designed to divide and create fear. It's what it was done. It was developed. So once the fear, I saw an outline.
You're saying it's a conspiracy? You're saying that Corona was a conspiracy?
No, I'm saying it's a conspiracy. I'm saying I saw a book that said they will go with Corona. Then the next thing they want to do is wars to create fears to manipulate the people.
But who is
There
the
will be
they?
shortages.
Who is the they? Who's the they? That's what I'm asking you. It's a legitimate question. So then it's a conspiracy, you're saying?
It's a continuous.
You're a conspiracy theorist, right? I'm not saying anything wrong with it. I'm just wanting to get it clear. Okay?
I don't call it a theory. This is a fact.
Okay.
This is a
No,
fact.
let's go back to your question. You speak about Purim and...
Okay, let me get back to the Purim. This has been a very, very wide-ranging discussion. The participation is excellent over here. Go ahead.
So I asked once what caused the Yom Kippur war that it took so many months to make the war in comparison to 6-day war. So the answer was very, very clear. They say after the 6-day war we became like an euphoria. Oh, we did it. So it was like a certain brazenness. So Hashem brought them another war to bring them down.
That happened.
So my question is, why then in Purim, what it also was, it came from despair to salvation.
That's right.
What is causing love?
Okay, good. Let me address that. I want to get that before, because this is the only chance I'm going to really have to talk about Purim. Next week, it's another subject will come up. Okay? See, I think like this.
Next week is what? Passover.
That's right. I asked you, what is the book of Megillah? What's the book about? What is it? It is, I heard this from another rabbi, I don't want to take credit. It's really a story about different characters. There's the characters on one side, what I would call the Rishayim, the wicked ones. And then there's on the other side, there's two characters who are the tzaddikim. And there's an interaction going on, and the Jews had the opportunity to observe Torah in action. This is the way the people that don't keep Torah, that don't know about Torah, this is how they live their life. And umara'u al-kacha. What happened to them? Achashverosh, for example. Achashverosh, what's the nature of Achashverosh? What kind of a person was he? He wasn't the same as Haman. He was different. He was a ruler. But what was he after? A hedonist, the enjoyments. He wasn't after the power and that. But you see, by the party, the Megillah starts off with an elaborate description of the party and this and that, and then he gets drunk and the drinking, 180 days of partying, and then he wants Vashti. Then he wants Vashti to come. In a, not in a very modest kind of a way. Whatever, Chazal say that she was to appear without. Excuse me? So what does that show you? What kind of person was he? We've had presidents like that too. He was like a playboy. He was interested in indulgence. Wine and women. Why else? When he had
two forces acting against the Jews.
Actually, no, okay. Let me finish. Let me finish. Okay, I have a slightly different take on the. So you have your take on that. Let me present mine. That is to say that, in fact, when he kills Vashti, in a moment of drunkenness, he kills Vashti. All right, and then he wakes up and he's upset. He remembered what she had done. This was extreme because she didn't want to appear. This was extreme. But what did his youth? What did they say? Oh, don't worry about it. We'll get something better for you. We're going to have this tremendous beauty pageant. That appeased them. All the beautiful women would have to come and this and that. You got your pick. So what does that show you? The essence of Achashverosh was not to kill Jews, not to do that, but the essence of Achashverosh. He took the Kalim of the Beis HaMikdash. Why not because he hated the Jews, but because he loved the gold. It was beautiful, and that's not. He wanted to have it. You see. What was the nature of Haman? He was the essence of Achashverosh was hedonism, was indulgence. The essence of Haman was power, ego and power. Those are the two expressions of the instinctual type of being who's outside of the Torah framework. Basically what we would call wicked, because a person that just follows his instinct is living like a behemoth. He's living like an animal. He's not living according to the Tselem Elokim. What brings the two together? What caused Achashverosh to elevate? And when Haman gets elevated, everybody has to bow down to him. They didn't have to do that to Achashverosh. Because he wants the glory, he wants the power, he wants to be worshipped. He wants to be worshipped as though he was a god. Which is why Mordechai refuses to bow. But, why does Achashverosh appoint him? See? Because the hedonist needs the egomaniac. Because the hedonist he wants to indulge. He doesn't want to be bothering with all the details of rule and this and profit. You can't have fun when you're really taking care of your empire. You can't have fun. So he needs a guy. He needs a guy that he appoints, that he trusts implicitly. Because one second, the cleverness of Haman. Here's the clever. You'll see what the undoing. Esther watched very, very carefully. Esther was a genius. She understood the whole relationship between them. She planned to undermine that relationship. Let me just go on a little bit over here. Because he has to believe that Haman is true to his interest. Haman's genius was he was able to do things masquerade. He was a masquerade guy. He was able to convince people that he's doing it not for personal reasons, but he's doing it for the benefit of the king. Right? So, for example, he hated Mordechai. See, because the egomaniac can't take it when a Jew refuses to bow down. He didn't stand, he wouldn't show any reaction because in the eyes of Mordechai, this guy's a nothing. Okay? So he wouldn't show him any reaction. He couldn't take that. See, because why couldn't he take it? Everybody else is bowing down to you. What do you care? So one insignificant Jew. The answer is because deep within himself, he's very insecure. He knows that it's all phony. He knows that his position rests upon his ability to convince others that he's something special. But Mordechai doesn't bow down to him. It's a big threat. It's a big danger. Other people will be on to him as well. But when he wants to, what does he do? He doesn't just go and knock him off. It was too inconsequential. It didn't make sense. This stems from the Jewish religion. I got to get rid of all the Jews if I'm going to if I'm going to get rid of this problem, right? When he came to Achashverosh, what did he tell him? What did he tell Achashverosh? Why must I kill the Jews? Not because they won't bow down to me. That would have been ridiculous. That's revealing your own ego.
Because they're a threat to the kingdom.
Yeah, they don't keep your laws, right? And they're separate, they're apart, they have strange practices. They're a threat. They're a threat to the whole kingdom. Not because of me personally. That was the... And by the way, the rabbis say that he was mamuchan. The rabbis say he was the one that gave the king the idea, the advice that he should kill Vashti. Okay, because the women will rebel, all right, and that whole thing.
He didn't obey.
Again, it was personal. He wanted her out of the way, but he presented it as though it was for the benefit. It won't be good for the kingdom. That is, now listen very carefully. The Jews observed the chachma, the greatness of Mordechai in action. He stuck by his guns. He wouldn't kneel. He wouldn't bow down because we don't deify any human being. Okay, this is Amalek. You're saying that you're a superior race, that you have divine powers. He wouldn't bow down. Even though we do uphold, you have to keep the laws of the kingdom. Notice that Mordechai, when he got wind of the plot of Bigson and Seresh, right? He reported it. He reported it because he's a loyal citizen. There's a plot to kill. But when it came down to this law, to bowing before Haman, he wouldn't do it because that's already in terms of his relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So they saw. And then, what about the miracle, Esther? What was Esther's plan? Give me a few minutes to cover the plan of Esther. Tremendous. At first she was reluctant. We discussed this last week. Because she simply wanted time to get an appointment. We discussed it last week. Then Mordechai said, no, you can't do that. You got to put your life on the line. Otherwise you're not going to get the attention of the king. You have to demonstrate to him that this is something that you're willing to die for. She did for three-day fast of Esther, right? And in that spirit, she comes before the king. Did she really obey what Mordechai told her to do? Did Esther carry out what Mordechai instructed her to do? I have Megillah here if you want to check.
The results of what Mordechai.
Well, not the way he said it. He said,
not the way, but she had a perception of
so she changed. Right. She said, go before the king and bow down to him and pleading. That's been the traditional way of the Jews throughout the exile.
It doesn't work.
Hishtadlus. Well, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say it doesn't work, but that was the way. Don't forget, the Jews didn't have an air force in those days. They didn't have too many options in the exile. They didn't have too many options. So what were they left with, Anyways, she didn't do that. Because she went before the king, and he could have killed her, but he stretched out the scepter, and then he says, he was touched by that. He was very moved by the gesture. And bear in mind, he doesn't know that she's Jewish. He does not know that she's Jewish. And he says, Esther, what is on? What's going on? Up to half the kingdom. Up to half of the kingdom. Say us, and it will be done. Okay? So what does she say? Now's your moment. Here's your shot. He's giving you your shot. Pour out your heart to him now. No. She says, this was a classical moment. Here's where the miracle is happening. All I want is that the king and Haman, should come to a party tonight, and then I'll tell. Okay? So she's delaying already. That's dangerous. Why? You have an appointment. Now's the time. Why delay? They come to the party with just two people besides her, is Achashverosh and Haman. And then he asks her again, well, if it's your will to do it, let Haman and Achashverosh come tomorrow night. Come tomorrow night. That's, at first glance, you don't understand what she's doing. Why is she putting it off? You never know what's going to happen. Maybe he'll have to go somewhere tomorrow. You won't ever have a chance again. Why pass up an opportunity? Nevertheless, what do we read? On that night, chapter 6. Then Hashem, Nadash Nasa Melech. The king Achashverosh couldn't sleep, but Chazal telling us that that's Hashkacha. That's when the Hashkacha is working everything out. Because...
Not Melech.
What?
Not Melech. Then say...
Nadada Shenas. Nadada Shenas Melech. The sleep, Shenas, the sleep of the Nadada, it was disturbed. couldn't sleep. Achashverosh couldn't sleep. And all of a sudden, 1 second, all of a sudden, he's calling. I want to read the records. The records of the he starts to read it. The Chronicles. He didn't do that on a regular basis. All of a sudden, he wants to read. And then what do they read about? They read about the fact that Mordechai gave the big son and Sarah that saved his life. So he says, well, what was he rewarded? Where was his reward? And at that very moment, somebody comes in. Haman. After the night of the first party, he was in his glory, he's happy and this and that, and as he leaves, what does he say? He says, Mara, you can't make up this stuff. I mean, it's amazing. What a story. He bumps into Mordechai, and Mordechai doesn't bow, and he goes crazy. Now he can't take it anymore. So he gathers together his wife and his advisors, and he starts telling him how great he is, and he says, there's just one thing. All of this is not worth anything to me every time I see Mordechai. They said, okay, what you should do is prepare a tree. Prepare a tree. Gavoa chamishim 50 amos high. Okay, and go to the king in the morning. Go to the king in the morning and tell him that that Mordechai should be hung on that tree, and then you'll be feeling great, and you'll go to the party. You'll be feeling great again. Was that good advice they gave him?
No.
That was the stupidest advice you could ever think of. That was the worst thing you could do. Because why until now you try to keep it hidden that there's a personal grudge, right? And wait, the 13th of Adar, Mordechai will be killed with all the other Jews. So wait, but the Russia can't control himself. The Russia can't control himself. He has to have immediate gratification. In fact, they told him to wait until the morning. Does he wait until the morning?
No.
Does he wait until the morning? No. He goes back at that very moment when Achashverosh can't sleep because something is bothering him. What's bothering him over there? What do you think is bothering him? Why can't he sleep all of a sudden? He was a good sleeper, I can tell you that. But that night he couldn't sleep. What was bothering him then? What the heck is going on with Haman? Why did she make a party? Esther, my queen, made a party, and the only one she brings is Haman. What's he doing over here? This is not the government. This is not the affairs of state. This is my personal life. Why? She aroused suspicion. That was her genius. She needed time. She needed time because she knew that if she went straight to Achashverosh and begged to save the Jews, it wouldn't work. Because at that point in time, he trusted him explicitly.
So she came from a uniquely woman's perspective.
Well, okay, fine. But the brilliance was to have... Yeah, hello? Okay, yeah, what? I can't talk now. Can you call back later? Yeah. Yeshli, Anino saying Shir Achshav. Shir. Okay? Okay, bye. UPS. Thank you very much. I don't know. Anyways. Maybe. Anyway, that was her genius. She knew that she had to place a barrier between the king and Haman. And it worked perfectly. See, Hashgacha comes to... Here you see the plans, the interaction between the plans of people, of tzaddikim, and divine and Hashgacha. It works together. God brought her plan to fruition. He couldn't sleep that night. He read the Chronicles. Where did he read? He read about Mordechai. Slowly but surely, he's getting suspicious of Haman. And then Haman comes in. When Haman comes in, he already asks him, so what should be done to the person who the king wants to honor? See, he thinks it's him. Yeah. See, he's off his game. He's off his game. That's what Esther knew. She's going to take him off of his game. She's going to plant seeds of suspicion in Achashverosh. And then he gives this whole thing that the sus and everything, the king's everything. He says so stupidly. Why would you want to say that the crown of the king, put the crown on the... Kings don't want to do that. It was stupid. Oh, really? That's great. Okay, do everything. Do all of that to Mordechai Yehudi. And that was the downfall. That was the downfall. He had to schlep him. He was taken off of his high horse. He was brought down to reality. He was humiliated. In fact, when he's finished with that, so Mordechai goes back to his sackcloth, like mourning, because of the decree was still in effect. And he goes to his advisors, okay, and they say, if Mordechai HaYehudi, if he's a Jew, that you began to fall before him, nafal till you're finished. you're finished. You see, there's a certain recognition there about the unbelievable powers of the Jews. And that's then of course the rest is history. They come, now when, you see what I'm trying to say? This is a story, a contrast between two different kinds of behavior. The behavior of these people that simply follow their own desires or their own ego, and they want to work out everything to gratify their emotional needs, as opposed to we have tzaddikim, Mordechai, the great idealist, who refuses to give in, and he honors Hashem. He won't bow down to someone who proclaims that he's a god. And then you have Esther Hamalka, and the way she behaves with tremendous intelligence and chachma. And they saw that this way of life succeeds. This way of life succeeds. That way of life fails, right? V'derech Rishayim toved. The way of the wicked is lost. The way of the wicked, every wicked person, every Russian winds up in destruction. No matter how powerful he may seem, it's only temporary. It's only short-lived. Oh, Hitler with the whole thing in the Third Reich, isn't that the whole thing? He winds up in the bunker, and the whole thing is rubble. The whole thing becomes rubble. So when the Jews saw, see, it was precisely because the Nisim, because the miracles that took place, on Purim were not overwhelming miracles. It wasn't God's intervention in the form of the laws of nature, like the Makros, like Kriyas Yamsuf. It wasn't like that. It was subtle. It was related to the exercise of the supreme wisdom of these tzaddikim who imbibed it, who got it all from the Torah. Then they saw that the Torah works. The Torah is the right way of life. It's better than any other way of life. There was Ava. There was Ava. You say, I've seen it in action. I want to be like Esther. I want to be like Mordechai. I want to be able to live that life on my level, the best that I can do. But now I see that the Torah way of life is superior. In the case of Sinai, they could not see that. All they saw was God's tremendous power. God controls the universe. He can do whatever he wants in the universe. So he's telling me to keep the Torah. I have no choice. I got to do it. But it's not love yet. In the case of Purim, it's a whole different experience. And that's why I think it leads to Ahava. Okay, last comment. Did you like this? Was this a presentation or what?
This shows the unique
Oh, this
power.
gentleman, I'm sorry. I kept him waiting. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Go ahead.
So, does anybody here know what's the background of the king? What was his background?
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
nothing.
Right,
He married Vashti because she was a princess.
right.
And then he became a king, but before that he was a barber. He was nothing. So when
Okay.
he kills her, he's really...
Okay. Right. Right, you're
That's
right.
why he had this... he wasn't in for power, he was in for fun.
Well, that's what we said.
Yeah.
Which president would you compare him to? Which president would you compare him to? Philandering and enjoying the...
Clinton.
Yeah, I guess my first thought was Kennedy, but I think Clinton is more...
Clinton, Kennedy...
Kennedy was really an indulger. All right. As opposed to, who would you compare to, like the Haman type? Not that he's wicked, but ego, more a matter of ego and control and power. Huh?
Nixon.
Yeah, I would say Nixon. I don't think he's evil, but in terms that he wasn't interested in the indulgences. He wasn't interested in the indulgences, but he was very policy and foreign policy and Henry Kissinger, that whole thing. Good.
So what all of this to me comes around, it shows the totally unique power of the unity of the Jewish man and the Jewish woman to speak to power. And it takes both. We're now confronted with a world that says there is no difference between the two. So
Between what two?
Between a man and a woman. It could never have happened that way. So it's the man and the woman, Mordechai and Esther, that effectively re-give the Torah to the Jews.
Okay, if that's in that sense.
That's the sense I'm talking about.
Okay. But all right. So then you're saying the same thing I'm saying. I'm saying that the role models, okay, it was Judaism, the great people of Judaism in action, leading the way, and we could watch them. And then we said,
the man and the woman.
Okay, fine. I identify. Yeah, the Jewish man, the Jewish woman, of course. No, goes without saying. And I identify with that. I want to be. I don't want to live like these animals. I don't want to live like Achashverosh, it leads to utter destruction.
Or in a world with no gender. That's what we're confronting. We are at war.
Okay, I agree. But I don't know if that's... All right, whatever. I agree with you. Okay, I don't want to get into an argument. We'll try to have some unity
How
here.
is
Unity.
there, could a nevuah, a prophecy that one night would be enough to put suspicion into Achashverosh?
She didn't know for sure.
That can
She
take
didn't-
months and months.
She did not have a, but if Hashem
was
wants
a
to work it
master.
out, if you have an ally,
Yeah.
okay, the hidden hand, so to speak, behind the scenes, and he's working together with you, things can happen very quickly. Because you know what it says? Yeshua's Hashem keharafayim. The salvation of God is like an eye blink. Turns around just like that. V'napochu, it turns around just like that.
I have a problem.
Yeah.
We know the story of Achashverosh and Esther and Haman because it was written after the facts.
Correct.
But take aside the four people, Achashverosh, Haman, Mordechai, and Haman. What did the folk know? They didn't know.
What did who know?
The folk, the people, Am
Yeah,
Israel.
when they found out. You're right. When they found out.
So
I mean, they didn't know at the time. They found out. They saw it afterwards.
they found out
That's
after
why-
she wrote.
That's why they wrote, and that's exactly why they wrote. And they wrote with Ruach HaKodesh, and that's why they wrote. Because they wanted people to know this, and it had an effect. Anyway, gentlemen,